All right, so we are meeting tonight to do our AAPTEL Research and Development Zoom. So the first question that I had was about the research-based best practices. So this was a two-part question. So what is your school doing well out of the five topics from the literature review? And then where are the needs for improvement? Bobby, do you want to start?
Yes, I can start. Excuse me. So based on the survey that I completed, it's only really one area where we was doing well in terms, I guess, of percentage, and that was the teachers feeling they had a say in in the budget, in the management or development of the budget, and all other areas. For example, in terms of professional development, I think we had about, if I'm not mistaken, the number, it was about 75 to 83% of the staff felt they didn't have a say in the development, the professional development being offered, as well as I'm sorry, I left my notebook in the car and I didn't want to
You're
run back
good.
down there. And I think the second one, that was really how was also them saying they didn't feel they had a say uh, in the development of the school-wide policies.
Sylvia, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Um, so according to the survey that was given out, um, so what our school is doing well in is the professional development. The we had about 84% of our teachers agree that they do play a role in the excuse me, not professional development, in the school improvement plan.
Mhm.
And that was our highest percentage. Um, we had pretty low percentage, like 32 percentage of students of teachers, excuse me, who said that they do have an input in the school budget. So that was pretty low. So 32% saying they do, with 68% saying they don't. Also pretty low, with 68% saying no. Teacher feeling like they don't play a role in the hiring process. Um, the other areas were kind of pretty mediocre. Wasn't very high, wasn't very low. So overall, we were doing well in the school improvement plan, and we have area of growth in all other areas, with the two lowest being the budget and the hiring process.
Kayla, do you want to go next?
Yeah, that's fine. Since I haven't done task two, I kind of looked at what we did last year because a lot of the information that's in the survey and things are in our survey that we fill out for our district at the end of the year. Um, and like across the board, our teachers like feel safe and everything at school, but they don't feel like they have an input on what's being implemented in the school. I can't remember the number from last year, but I've kind of looked at that before this meeting.
Mhm. Casey, do you want to do yours now, and then I'll go?
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, my we're on our way back from basketball practice. Um, so our greatest um area was in professional development because we actually have a professional development committee. Sorry, Charlie, shush. And so we have an actual committee that plans and coordinates with our principal, and they get feedback from teachers as to what kind of professional development they need. So that was an area I felt like we were really excelling at anyway. Um, and then the data confirmed it. And then the rest of the areas were kind of hit or miss. Most of them percentages were really low as far as teacher input on things like budget and hiring and things like that. But after talking to the teachers too, like not just doing the survey, but like talking to them, um, a lot of the people that I talked to were like, we don't really care about having input on things like budget or, setting school policy. Like we already have the say in a lot of those things. But the one thing that they really, really wanted to emphasize was having more input in the hiring process of teachers, and that happened to be one of the lowest scores anyway. Um, so that was a really good focal point for upcoming action plan was, knowing that where we excel in professional development, but knowing specifically what teachers want to have input in. So that's kind of where we stand right now.
And then as far as mine, the school was doing really well, like with teacher leadership. They do really well with giving beginning teachers and veteran teachers opportunities to lead. We're kind of in this weird spot with professional development because our district has implemented so many new programs that all of our PD is district mandated right now. The school's not getting to select anything. So we're doing new math curriculum, new phonics. This is our third year on a new reading curriculum, plus letters that's coming down from the state. So all of our PD days are filled up by things that they decide. The biggest thing with us was more teachers wanting to be involved within the hiring process. But after talking to them, the biggest issue there is most of our interviews are over the summer when they're not there. So our principal is trying to find anybody that is willing to come in or that's in town that can come in to participate in those interviews at that point. So it's kind of just whoever can get there. It's not she doesn't want to include them. It's just harder in the summer when they're not paid to be there. And then as far as efficacy, actually 30% of our staff is new this year. We have a high turnover rate at my school pretty much every year. So it's hard when you're 9 weeks into school for teachers to feel empowered when you have about a third of your staff that's also beginning teachers who don't necessarily know what they're doing yet, and they'll quite honestly tell you that. But you can't really feel empowered until you learn all the new curriculums and learn classroom management and feel confident yourself. So that's the biggest thing we found so far. As far as the next question is, were the staff willing to complete your checklist and how did the walkthrough process go? And I can start this one. As far as the checklist, my principal mentioned it at a staff meeting and pretty much told everybody why I was doing it. And we politely asked, but also she was like, please get this done quickly. So all of the staff completed it for me. As far as walkthroughs, my principal assigned 3 rooms that she's very concerned about for this year for me to do walkthroughs in so that she could follow up as well, because we knew there were going to be some struggles there. For the walkthrough process, it was very interesting how nervous some of the teachers were, just because it's a new instrument for my district. So we went through and kind of told them, it's not a gotcha. It's a how can we help you improve from here. And my principal has kind of really included me in the administration team. So when she emailed it out, she included me as one of the optional observers so that they didn't view it as just an assignment for me. They knew that I could participate in this process throughout the rest of the year with them. Sylvia, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah. So as far as staff willing to complete the checklist, the survey that went out, so I had after my principal approved the survey, I had my bookkeeper send it out.
Mhm.
And so we did get a good turnover. That way we got about a little more than half the staff that completed the survey. And then as far as the walkthrough process, our district mandates 20 walkthroughs a month. And then there's a focus based on the 4.0 rubric. So during our leadership meetings, at the end of every month, our leadership meetings are weekly, but at the end of the month, we will discuss what walkthroughs we're going to go in, and we go ahead and set that every week. So for each week, there's a focus grade level based on what specific domain from the 4.0 rubric that the district is requiring us to complete the walkthroughs for that month. It just so happened that I was able to get in on this one, and it was with our early Head Start teachers. So I didn't get a good variety of classes in the walkthrough data. I would have liked to have included more throughout that month. But the process went pretty well with that walkthrough.
Casey, do you want to go next? You're muted.
Yeah,
There you
that's fine. Hang on, guys, it's my turn. So okay, so I know I've mentioned that Dorman is huge. My school is massive by itself, just the freshman campus. So we have 62 or 63 staff members, teaching staff, just teaching staff. And I got 50 people to complete the survey. Got it approved, sent it out, sent the link, all the fun things. And that honestly was a higher response rate than I thought I was going to get. So I was really, really, really happy about that. And I feel like going into it, I knew kind of what the answers probably were going to be, but the data kind of backed it up. So that was, it makes me feel good to know that I kind of have a good feel of our staff and where their mindset is. And then as far as the walkthroughs, I tried to do multiple departments, and I did end up getting multiple departments because we are expected to do those periodically throughout the semester. There's not like a set number, but our principal is like, hey, at the beginning of the year, she sets a goal of, you need to go visit so many teachers. And as department head, I'm supposed to go visit all of the science department. But I did a science teacher, a theater teacher, a math teacher, a social studies teacher, and an English teacher. And I tried to do like a variety of levels, and things like that. And, the teachers were very welcoming. They were really, because we get walkthroughs with our assistant principals a lot. So that wasn't anything new. And, it was interesting to see it from the other side of the desk. And overall, I think it was a really good eye-opening experience for me. I think I answered all of it. Sorry.
You're good. Bobby, do you want to go next?
Yes. So in terms of the survey, we have 24 teachers and 16 complete the survey. And I actually found my notebook. So I did give a couple of wrong percentages. So for professional development, 93% of the teachers said they had no say. And for the school improvement plan, it was 87. And the school-wide policy, it was 73. So with the survey, I was kind of expecting a lot of those numbers because I want to say we have about maybe six first year teachers, along with a couple teachers who just completed their first year at the school the last school year. So I wasn't really too surprised at some of the responses that I received from the survey. In terms of the walkthrough, I done 4 walkthroughs. I done 2 math classes because my principal, we actually do walkthroughs every day. So he wanted me to do 2 math classes. And then I done a social studies class and a ELA class. Like I said, the teachers was real receptive. And one of the things that I noticed through my walkthroughs, while all the teachers seem to know their content very well, out of the 4 classes I went to, I want to say 3 of them had, in my personal opinion, they had a lot of classroom management issues. And as a teacher who, prior to being in the gym, being in the class, of course, as the administrator, I'm just kind of making my notes and stuff, but it was also a little frustrating because I'm kind of a law and order type teacher. And, but overall, the experience was it was pretty good.
That's kind of how I felt too, Bobby, when I was going through from the EC background. I was like, my kids know better when I was sitting there, but I was like, I can't say anything.
Yeah.
Kayla, I know you haven't done yours yet, but is there anything you're looking forward to with the walkthrough process or anything you're expecting from the checklist or survey?
I've already done a few walkthroughs, like unofficially, not for the class. Just because I'm one of those people that like if something's not working for me, I want to see what other people are doing. So when I go into others, like throughout the year, I've seen the different things that some people are doing. Like I mainly do math because I teach math. And like one of our teachers really incorporates like gamification style learning, like making games out of their learning. And then one is very like very structured. So I think seeing the differences, but they're still learning and accomplishing and doing what's needed. So That was interest. That's interesting to see them go in and do things.
For the next question, it was when you met with your PLC team, how did they react to the information you collected from your survey, and were they surprised or were they expecting what you brought to them? Casey, do you want to start this one?
I would be more than happy to. I think I don't think there was any. Hang on. I don't think there was any surprises. As far as the PLC, um, bringing everything to them because our district is really good about taking the load off of teachers. And so they weren't surprised that a lot of teachers responded that they didn't have a say in XYZ. Um, but they agreed with me that like a lot of people don't want that. So like we were talking about, ways we could refine or fine tune, where teachers still have input, but there's not that extra weighted responsibility. Because I can't tell you how many people looked me in the eye with like a deer in the headlights look on their face when I mentioned the word budget. It was like inciting minor panic attacks. It was uh, kind of entertaining. But they, it's not that they don't care. It's just that they don't want the burden of having to do that, but they still don't feel any less, empowered. They love having that autonomy in their classroom and everything like that. So the PLC, we talked about all of those things. And like I said, there wasn't really any surprise in the results. And we were kind of hashing out like ideas we could do this to improve this or this to improve that. So that sparked some really good conversation with our particular circumstances.
Sylvia, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So like Casey, we weren't really surprised by the results. There was a lot of discussion around the budget and the hiring process as well. So as far as the budget, again, like Casey, they didn't really care to have input on the budget, but it was more of an awareness of like of understanding or wanting to know um how it works and what money goes towards what and that's kind of huge because we're early learning center. And so with that, with the ages of birth through kindergarten, the our principal always says kindergarten is our moneymaker. So like that's where the budget comes from. And so certain resources are allocated only for kindergarten teachers. And then we have our CD teachers who go through CERTUP, which is a different process. And there are funds allocated for them for their materials. But a lot of the teachers just don't really understand that. So it's like more of an understanding awareness of how that all works. And then as far as the hiring process, that was a huge one because this year we had a lot of turnover. Well, last year we had some teachers who retired, did some different things, so we had a lot of new staff come in, and those are pros or cons to that. And what we're finding is there was hiring of a lot of teachers, brand new, and then some teachers who just weren't a good fit for the school, and so we had a couple teachers who have already quit, and that's just put um some stress on the staff in the building as a whole. So teachers kind of feel like they should have some input, or maybe we should look at how that hiring process is currently being laid out and make some changes to that to kind of alleviate some of the issues we're having now.
I think we kind of had that too. I think I read that you guys were a conscious discipline school as well, right? So,
Yes.
so we are too. So it's hard to get people who understand that it's a mindset, not a program, and that's how we function.
Hmm.
So especially new hires, we try to like question them to understand if they get that that's how we interact with kids.
Right, right. So that is a main That is a major issue. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that yeah, you're right. You have to come in with your mindset.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Bobby, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So, in terms of how the PLC team reacted to the information from the survey, when I first asked my principal, could I send out the survey? Of course, he asked me could he see it first, and when he looked at the questions, I mean, he sent back LOL, and he was like, I know how this is going to look. So when I finally met with the PLC team, just like Soviet and Casey said, it was, I mean, there was no surprise at all. Like, I mean, everybody was expecting it. I think for some of them, they was thinking that it would probably be 100% in terms of people saying they didn't have a say. Of course, again, due to just the new teachers and the first year teachers. Now in terms of now, some of the stuff in terms of like the hiring, uh, and the budget, like I said, that's something that kind of came up because even some of the members of the PLC team, I mean, they started asking questions about the budget and things of that nature. And our principal, like, when it comes to the budget, a lot of times if we got money allocated, he sent out an email. If you need something, let me know. We can get it. So of course, he brought that up, and with the hiring, like you said, I think for us, sometimes our principal, he has some people that he kind of trusts to kind of sit in and help make on the right decisions. Uh, but some teachers, they do feel that they should be able to at least kind of have a interaction with the people who going to fill the classrooms because I think like Sophia just said, everybody not a good fit. You may be a good teacher, but you may not be good, at that school. So we do have some issues with some teachers, but like I said, we think that we can kind of work around it and just continue just seeing improvement in them.
My team was kind of like everyone else. I don't think anything was unexpected. I think it kind of hit us all a little hard when we realized that a third of our staff was beginning teachers. And so when you think about that empowerment number, and we're like, oh, that's why they don't feel empowered because we've thrown three new programs and their mentor and letters that they all have to do and all these things. And
Mm.
so that number didn't seem as daunting when we looked at it that way. Um, we've had some teachers who needed to leave have left in the past few years, so we're excited to see how our staff can grow now that we have hopefully the right people on our team. Um, Kayla, do you have anything you want to add for this one?
Um, when it's all said and done, I would like to see the numbers, but like y'all, I think I kind of know where our numbers are going. Um, and like I said, we do a survey very similar to this at the end of every school year. So I kind of have that to kind of go back on as well.
I'm going to skip the next question because we've kind of already touched on it, and we have about 8 minutes left on our free recording. As far as thinking ahead for the action plan, do you have any ideas how you can address gaps? Kind of thinking ahead as you get into your PLC meeting for task 3. Does anybody want to start on that one? I know that one's a loaded question more so.
I'll start. I forgot to mute my microphone, so I go
You're
ahead and
right.
start. But I want to say it may have been. I know it was either yours or Casey's that I was reading, and y'all was talking about the buddy and mentor system that your school uses.
Oh, that
Uh,
was me.
Yeah.
so yes, of course, when I read that, it got me thinking. I'm like, man, that is really a great idea. So that's something that I already presented. Uh, so I'm giving you credit. That's something I already presented to my principal, because I do like how again you got those new teachers who are paired with someone who can kind of help them with that transition, getting them acclimated to the school and helping them with helping them with various things, in this profession. So that's one of the ways. And I feel even with the mentoring aspect, we could, we could even, it helped teachers in other departments, in other areas, as well. Now, in terms of the hiring process, one of the things that I, like I said, suggested to the principal was, if we hiring a teacher and we know they are applying for a specific grade level, even if you don't use the entire grade level, there needs to be a trusted team member from that grade level, who is able to sit in, and kind of report back to the teachers, kind of their observations, provide some notes that they gain, from the interview, and let them help them make that decision. Because sometimes, while I know he has the best interest in terms of who he decides to put in the interview, it's different when you ain't got to work with them every single day, And while we got our own personal classes, the reality is you can't go 180 days and just be locked up in your class without coordinating, collaborating, with the teachers that's also on your team. So those are a couple of things that I thought could be used to address some of the gap areas.
And building off kind of what you said about the hiring, one thing we talked about is maybe if our principal at the end of the year shares out like who would be willing to come in this summer for interviews if needed. Just because it's hard to kind of guess like who's available, but if they could share like I'm available in July, like I'm going on vacation at this time, but otherwise I'm around. Just so she can get some different people involved because I know there's a team of like 5 of us that are always popping into interviews for her. But it makes it difficult when that team is like your interventionist and your EC teacher and your people who are on staff in the summer already, versus like the classroom teachers. So just getting some more input there for her was our biggest thing.
We were, I was on the same page, as far as like, because hiring was the big one for us, like what people actually wanted input in. And at my first school, you interviewed, because I was middle school, so you interviewed with your team, and if people in your team weren't available, they would reach out to the rest of the grade level. So there was like maximum 9 teachers that could have potentially been in, and it was like a panel of 3 and maybe an assistant principal and a principal. Whereas at my current school, it was just me and the principal, and it was very different. It was like almost more pressure as a hire potential hiree. But there needs to be, like, kind of like you were saying, some sort of um trusted faculty. And it doesn't, like, for me, I would want at least one science person if I was hiring a science person. But maybe somebody you trust their judgment on, because I can think of at least 3 staff members off the top of my head that, like, they're not in my department, but I would trust their judgment 100% of the time. Um, so that would be I think those are really good routes to take. Um, or at least some kind of like combination of what everybody was saying. I think that's awesome.
Sylvia or Kayla, either one of you want to jump in? We have about 3 minutes left.
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. I for our action plan, so we're brainstorming like committees for each one of the areas. The hiring process was again a big one for us, and currently it's admin and then maybe coaches, and then every once in a while it's like grade level chair, but maybe even taking it a step further, and I think the teachers need to have some type of second interview, or maybe with a performance task where they're inside the classroom, and to give the grade level chairs or the teachers in that grade level more autonomy with that. But yeah, definitely with having teacher committees for all of these areas, and then having them report out.
Kayla, is there anything you want to add in for this one?
I not really everything y'all have said is kind of what we're doing. Okay.
Is there anything anybody else has? Y'all good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording.